Hi, I'm Marcus with the IndieMusicLab.com. So when you start talking about genres like dream pop and shoegaze, it becomes almost impossible not to mention the duo that we're going to talk about today, and that of course is beach house. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 key components to producing a beach house style song straight from your bedroom or home studio. Now obviously the end goal isn't to sound exactly like beach house. The reason we're doing this is because we want to understand and take these productions apart and understand the infrastructure and how these productions are built and how this vibe is built. And then as a result of that knowledge, we'll be able to apply one or all of these ideas, if we so please, to our own productions. So let's dive in. Now for this video, I just made a short version of Beach House's song Myth, and it sounds like this. So key component number 1 to a beach house style song is dual electric guitar lines. And what I mean by this is you want one lead guitar, if you will, and then a harmony guitar that's playing a line based off of that lead. So here, and you hear this with beach house all the time. This is a staple of their sound. So here is the main guitar. Let's start it back here. So that's the main guitar, and then we have this harmony guitar that's playing this. And then if we add them together, and I have one pen left, one pen right. It's just beautiful, it's so pleasing, right? It's so great. So that's pretty simple. Now let's just real quick dive into what I did here to get this. So I'm using Ampire, which is just a stock amp modeling plugin inside of Studio One, which is my DAW of choice, and I just went with a preset and then put a bit of EQ on to get rid of some harsh frequencies, and then a bit of OTT to add a bit of compression depth at 20%. And that's basically it. And then I'm sending it to this reverb, which I'll talk about in a minute, because we're using this reverb pretty much on almost everything, and it's a 4-second hall reverb. And then for the harmony guitar, I just used a different preset inside of this software. The key is for this type of beach house sound, you want those guitars to sound very bell-like. You don't want to add a bunch of distortion or saturation or too many of those types of effects. Just keep it simple and look for presets and sounds and tone qualities that have that bell-like sound to it. So I'm also sending this to the reverb, as you can see. So nothing crazy going on there. That's key component number 1, is have dual electric guitar lines, one lead part and one harmony part. Alright, key component number 2 for a beach house style song is you want a non-obtrusive, washed out vocal. For a beach house style vocal like this, you want it to feel like it's just a part of the mix. It doesn't stand out in any real way. It's just there. You want to wash it out with a bunch of reverb. You want to put some chorusy effects on it to help it feel like it's just glued and meshed together and mixed together in this bowl where there isn't anything specifically that jumps out when it comes to the volume of specific tracks. So how do we achieve this? Well, it's not just a matter of turning the vocal down in the mix volume-wise. There's more to it than that. So here's what it sounds like. Okay, so let's solo this. You say just what you mean, and in between. Well, I'll walk through this chain in a minute here, but first though, I want to look at the EQ moves that I did to help push this vocal farther back in the mix. This is very important, especially if you have a brighter kind of timbre like I do. It's going to cut through the mix too much if you don't make these cuts for this style of song. The first area you want to look at is between 1.5K and 3K. As you can see here, I have a massive cut right at 2K, which I do this a lot on my voice specifically, and you're talking, what is this? Like almost 12 dB, and I made the Q pretty narrow just to cut away a bunch of that 2K range. It's never as it right, so it's that. Okay. those frequencies there, and then also just overall made a cut in the 3-4K range here, as well as just above 1K, and then a little bit of a duck in the low mid range to get rid of some of the wonkiness happening. So yes, the overall volume is turned down further than a typical pop song would be. However, there are a couple other things we do, and this EQ in this range right here between 1K and 4K, that is, if you do some cuts in that range, it can help push the vocal in the back of the mix and help it just blend in with everything. By the way, if you need help with your vocal EQ, I have a link below where you can download my free guide. It's called a visual guide for fixing vocal EQ problems, and it's really going to help you get some clarity on vocal EQ. So be sure to download that if you need some help with EQ. Now, the other thing that helps push any track to the back of a mix is reverb. And this type of vibe, dream pop, and shoegaze, obviously, there's always a ton of reverb in this genre. So what I have here is a hall reverb with a 4-second decay time, and you got the low cut around 230, high cut around 8K, and that's basically all that's happening. And then I have, on this reverb channel here, I do have a pretty big cut in the 5K range, again, to get rid of too many of those harsh high frequencies, because again, we're just trying to get this vocal to blend in, and the reverb is a part of that as well. And then we also have OTT on this reverb channel, which this really helps add some compression and bring this reverb to give it more of that consistent, compressed, pleasing tone quality. I just love the way it sounds when you put OTT on a reverb channel, so you should definitely try it out if you haven't before. See, there's without the reverb. Such a difference, right? Alright, so now I'm going to run through this vocal chain that I have here very quickly, just so you get an idea and a feel for what's happening. If you want to dive deeper, be sure to check out my vocal mixing and production page on the front page of my YouTube channel. I have its own playlist of different videos where I go more in depth there. But here I'm just going to run through real quick. So the first thing is a auto tune, just to add some nice tuning to it. Then I threw JJP Vocals on here, which is a fantastic plugin, especially if you want a faster workflow. And it just works great. Then I put on the EQ, which we already talked about. Then a bit of flanger, which we have the mix at 20%. And then a bit of micro shift, which is kind of like a chorus doubler effect by Sound Toys. It sounds incredible, and I've got the dry wet at about 10, 11 o'clock. And then I'm sending it to the reverb, which we talked about, as well as a quarter note delay, which sounds like this. In between. And then the quarter note delay is Valhalla delay with a reverb on that delay. That way that delay gets even more spacey. And then I also have a sidechain compressor, which ducks the delay signal every time the lead vocal is performing, and then it comes back up as soon as the lead vocal stops. So that's key component number 2. You want a non-obtrusive, washed out vocal. Now, key component number 3 is you want a basic drum machine groove with 1 or 2 additional percussive tracks and elements to help add rhythmic interest. So for this song, I just grabbed my Addictive Drums drum machine pack, which is called Real Machines, and I scrolled through until I landed on Indie Electro, and that sounds like this. And then I have the little toms playing there as well. Right? So that is the main beat that just basically loops over and over again. Now, as far as 1 or 2 additional percussive elements, I pulled in my impact sampler inside of Studio One. Why is this always yellow by default? It looks so ugly. Let's move that to blue. So we have a shaker. Right? And then we have this little tonal hit. Now I'm sending both of these drum tracks to a drum bus where I have a little bit of RC20 to help give it more of that retro warm sound. See, it's a little too bright. warms it up, gives it that analog feel. Love it. All right, key component number 4 for a beach house style song is you want hypnotic bell arps. Now, an arp obviously stands for arpeggiator, and that just means you're just playing the same loopy riff over and over and over again, like we have here. Right, and I just pulled in my Omnisphere. You can use whatever software you might have. Most DAWs, there comes stock some of these nice bell tones within at least one piece of software. So I'm using Omnisphere, and what I have is 2 bells. I've got 1 pen left and 1 panned right. So this is the preset in Omnisphere with the bell on the left that you just heard, and then the bell on the right is this one. It has more of that glassy feel. One pan right, 1 pan left. Huge difference when I take it away. When I bring it back in. So these types of bell arpeggiated sounds give you that hypnotic, dreamy quality, which is just beautiful. All right, and finally, key component number 5 to a beach house style song is a super simple bass. So you can use synth bass, bass guitar, whatever ups your fancy. Wait, that's definitely not the right way of saying that. Here we got a bass guitar that I recorded. It's just a DI bass guitar. I use the Waves GTR amp, Super Tube, bass 810 with a microphone there. Very standard stuff. And then I put a bit of OTT on it to compress it just a little bit. Now, one final thing that I just thought of is there are 2 additional tracks that I didn't talk about, and it is just the plain piano track here, which is doing basic block chords. And for this style, an electric style piano can work great. So I'm using the Mark I inside of Addictive Keys. So it's pretty straightforward there. And then I also added an extra Omnisphere track, which is kind of a droney, very cool sound here. That's a bit of texture to it as well. Alright, so before I go ahead and play my version of the song one more time, I want to let you know about my free guide. It's my visual EQ guide for fixing vocal EQ problems. This is really going to help you out to get an understanding of how to use EQ to actually fix problems and actually make your vocal mixes better. Link is in the description below. It's really going to help you out. You'll be able to see visually what all the cuts and the boosts look like for very specific problems. Go check it out. Link is in the description. It's 100% free. So here is the track that I made from start to finish. Well, kind of. I just made a little bit of it. So there you go. That is how you produce a beach house style song. I really hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.